Thank you. I'm excited to be here today to talk about the NIH All of Us Research Program, Citizen Scientists, and Data Literacy with All of Us California. My name is Dr. Karriem Watson, and I'm the Chief Engagement Officer for the NIH All of Us Research Program. I'm excited to be here today and share with you about my work, my cancer disparities research, and what the All of Us Research Program is doing to engage citizen and community science. I want to start this conversation off today with the importance of my why, and even how I got involved in engaging community members and citizen scientists in my work. I like to say that the first citizen scientist I met was actually my dad. My dad actually became a citizen scientist after he was navigating, trying to better understand what his wife, my mother, was dealing with at the time when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. We're from a small rural town, and my parents are from the South, and they didn't have a whole lot of access to care. So when my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, it was really daunting for my family. So my dad set out to find out how he could ensure that she had better access to treatment and better access to care. However, that care didn't exist at the time. Research was not precise. And unfortunately, as a result, my birth mother, died from complications of breast cancer when I was 6 years old. However, my dad learned a lot about what it meant to be a health disparities advocate. And so therefore, my oldest sister, was diagnosed with breast cancer some 20 plus years later. I now was a cancer disparities researcher. I was able to share with her what I knew and what I had learned from community members, what I knew about the importance of faith-based engagement. And so unlike my birth mother, who was not able to attend my college graduation, that picture that you see there is a picture of one of my nephews at his graduation with his mother, my oldest sister, who is not only a survivor of breast cancer, but she's a thriver. So I know firsthand what engaging the community in a way that how that can advance cancer disparities. And in my career as a cancer disparities researcher, I took from my lived experience and what I had learned from my family and my communities, and I brought all of that work to my own research. For example, growing up in the African-American community, the barbershop and the faith community were often two places where you got a lot of information. It was not only a place where you got your hair cut or where you got things done, it was also where you learned about the latest things that were happening in your community, the latest things that were happening in your neighborhood. And in many cases, those barbers were just as important as teachers and pastors and other community leaders. So knowing and growing up that way, I said, how do I bring that experience to my own research? So I set out to work with my mentor, Dr. Robert Wynn, and a urologist, Dr. Adam Murphy, a prostate cancer survivor, and an organizer of one of the largest African-American male group in the Chicagoland area, and a barber, Kurt from Kurt's Barbershop, and another health disparities researcher as a clinical psychologist. I said, together, how can we all bring all of our lived experiences, all of our different expertise, how can we bring that together to address health disparities of African-American men in Chicagoland area? So we set out to train barbers, faith leaders, and other men as citizen scientists to allow us to address the prostate cancer disparities that existed in African-American men in the Chicagoland area and much broader. And to our surprise, the model worked. We were able to engage African-American men who have been historically underrepresented in research in a way that they felt empowered, they felt heard, and they felt the model that we called for us, by us. They had a model that they said to me, Karriem, nothing about us without us. And the fact that we were engaging them as citizen scientists, training them in the IRB, training them on how to recruit and engage with participants, and also adapting our research questions to things that were a priority to them, that made our project so successful. And you'll see here that we had several publications that were a result of this work. We also found new discoveries. Because of the citizen scientists that we engaged, Dr. Adam Murphy found out that previous measures that had been used to screen African-American men for prostate cancer, because those previous studies didn't include populations that carry the greatest burden of disease, we found new screening measures and new screening guidelines that could help advance the field. We would not have been able to do any of that if it had not been for the inclusion of people like Dr. Ben Levy, who was both a prostate cancer survivor and one of the lead citizen scientists. We would definitely not have been able to do that without Kurt and the other barbers working with us to say how we can continue to build trust with the community members. And as a result of that work that we did around prostate cancer, we expanded that citizen scientist model to do a similar model for colorectal cancer screening. And now they're doing that same model around lung cancer screening. So we know that engaging community members as partners in research can help advance and eliminate health disparities. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about the All of Us Research Program. I was fortunate to be a researcher and to be a faculty member in academia for over 17 years where I engaged the community. So I was so fortunate to be able to bring that experience to the All of Us Research Program. So what is the All of Us Research Program and what are we setting out to do? We are setting out to engage 1 million or more people over the next 5 years to create one of the world's largest and most diverse data sets that truly reflects the diversity of the U.S. We want to collect data and make that data available to researchers so that they can ask questions that they have not been able to ask before. We want to make sure that we're not only collecting data that is biological samples that may include certain things that allow us to look at genetic ancestry. We also want people to complete survey data. So we ask questions about social determinants of health. We also want to be able to look at the EHR, the electronic health record. So we can be able to look at someone's health history at one period of time and see how it may change over time. So imagine the rich ability to be able to combine those types of data together. And as a result of our intentionality around diversity, equity, and inclusion, we have created one of the world's largest and most diverse data sets that is truly reflective of the diversity of the U.S. And we've done that through partnership with community. This is an example of an ecological model that we've adapted. One of the things we said is that when you think about engaging communities, you must have community partnerships. So we use engagement to think about outreach and awareness, education and access, enrollment and retention, participants as partners, and even knowledge mobilization. And we do that through an engagement ecosystem that includes over 18 community partnerships that represents organizations that represent populations that are often underrepresented in biomedical research. And this is just some examples of how our community partners, such as the National Alliance for Hispanic Health, who use promotores and navigator staff, they've contacted and enrolled over 415 community members. And even our work with our mobile engagement asset, through that work, the National Alliance have been able to reach more than 15,000 community members through collaboration with 20 partners in a network they've developed. And even partnering with the American Association of Health and Disability, we think about issues of access and accessibility, making sure that our engagement is inclusive of populations even living with disability. We also have improved access for community members who don't have to always go to an academic medical center through our work with over 40 events with the National Alliance for Hispanic Health. And we also understand the importance of listening. Through our model of knowledge mobilization, one of the things we often talk about is how do we address not just trust, but trustworthiness. Many of us know that a lot of the reasons that some populations don't participate in research, particularly populations that may identify as a self-identified racial, ethnic, minoritized population, is because of a lot of the historical misgivings that have happened. For example, we know that what happened in the United States Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis in the African-American male is still a very present memory for many African-Americans, particularly those in the South. So it was important for us through community listening to have a conversation with over 300 community members in the South about the importance of trustworthiness and engaging in precision medicine research. We also understood to have this conversation in California, where we met with the Barrio Logan Community Center, have a community convening with the Chicano, Hispanic, and Latino community to talk about the importance of topics that were important to them, like environmental health. Without effective listening, we are not able to ensure that research will be responsive to the priorities of community members. And some concrete examples of how citizen scientists, community scientists model are showing up in our program is through our partners with the National Library of Medicine, through the network of the National Library of Medicine, where they have developed in-person digital citizen scientist activities in English and in Spanish. They've collaborated with Arizona State University School and talking about important engagement opportunities. We also have our partners at the Asian Health Coalition that launched a community citizen scientist project in March of 2022 that is still going on, where they're engaging community members from the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Island communities that are identifying research priorities that are important to them. And that is truly the heart of community and citizen scientist participation, is making sure that the research that we are doing and conducting and prioritizing is research that the community has said is important to them. And we're thinking about additional opportunities and expanding opportunities. In our program, we have ancillary studies. These are ways that we can think about how to use our data set to ask additional questions. And we have a program where participants are actually advising on how we develop ancillary studies. We also have ancillary studies like a nutrition for precision health. One of our own community members from the California area, Hugo Campos, is a participant ambassador and a champion for the Nutrition for Precision Health program. We even have a program called Ignite that actually uses data sandboxes where the community members can come in and learn about the data, view the data, and then inform researchers on what questions they want to see. and connecting researchers. We're getting ready to gear up for our third researcher convention. And at that research convention, one of the topics we'll have is pairing a researcher with a participant and talking about why that research that the researcher is doing is important to one of our participant ambassadors who's a former veteran and someone who has lived with mental health challenges, and saying the importance of why his voice needs to be heard in advancing precision medicine research. And so I want to encourage you all to please go to this QR code, download our annual engagement report. You can learn more about the work that we're doing. To also learn about the All of Us Research Program, you can go to the other QR code or visit us at allofus.nih.gov to learn more about how we can continue to include the community as partners in this work. Thank you so much.